Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Very important question, interesting question. I think this question probably is relevant to a lot of people. This person is saying here, I've got a relative and what appears to be the case is that they are about to die. It appears that they are on their deathbed because they are very, very unwell. I want them to enter into Islam before they pass away. Is it sufficient for me to teach them to say La ilaha illallah? Or do I need to teach them both of the testimonies of faith? La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. If I was to teach them to say La ilaha illallah, it is something that they can comprehend anyway, that there is no deity worthy worship except Allah. If they were to accept that, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. But when it comes to saying Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, there might be a lot of questions that, are connected to that testimony of faith, which would then hinder their chances of then entering into Islam. Is it sufficient for them to say La ilaha illallah? Can we use the incident between the Messenger of Allah ﷺ and Abu Talib on his deathbed when he was saying to his uncle, Ya Am, qul la ilaha illallah, my uncle say La ilaha illallah, kalimatan, uhaj biha laka indallah. It's a statement that I can use as a witness, as a proof for you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can we just say La ilaha illallah, or do they need to say both of them? Now, in answer to this question, this incident with the Messenger of Allah ﷺ and other ahadith which are similar to this, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, Man qala la ilaha illallah dakhala al-jannah. Whoever says La ilaha illallah, he will enter into Jannah. In another hadith, slightly different version, Man qala la ilaha illallah ibtigha wajhi, says, whoever says La ilaha illallah, seeking Allah's face, dakhala al-jannah. Man qala la ilaha illallah khalisan qalbih, he says it sincerely from his heart, he will enter into Jannah. There are many narrations like this. Can we use this as proof to say La ilaha illallah is sufficient? The answer to this question is no. Many of the ulama, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, Shaykh Salih Fawzan, and from those that came from before, they have said what these ahadith mean is when you say La ilaha illallah, there is an understanding with that you are attesting to the second testimony of faith, even though you are not saying it. Does that make sense? So when you say La ilaha illallah and you are accepting from a Muslim to say La ilaha illallah, if it is understood that they are now also accepting with that statement La ilaha illallah that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah and his servant subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is part of it. This is part of it, and he doesn't need to utter that separate statement separately. However, if the person says, yeah, I believe in La ilaha illallah, but I can still continue being a Christian or something else, then that is not sufficient. Then the person must come with that second testimony of faith, which is وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ, or something similar. Now with this, there is a fiqhi discussion. Some of the Shafi'iyya, and I believe actually this is the official position of the madhab, which is that if a person was to enter into Islam, they have to make kufr of the thing that they were upon from before. So imagine you've got a Christian that wants to become Muslim. It's not sufficient with this madhab here to say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. You have to say La ilaha illallah and I believe that Muhammad is a messenger and I believe that Isa is a messenger. Completely negating any kind of kufr that person was on. If a person was atheist, they would have to say, I believe that Allah is our deity, our object of worship, and I reject any kind of, atheistic idea. They have to make bara from the kufr and the shirk that they were upon from before, complete disassociation, and this is now negation and affirmation that the Shafi'iyya have said that must be done. Based on, similar to what we're talking about here in, the original question. The majority of the ulama have said no, and this is the answer that we're giving as well, and it's related to both these masail, or connected with one another, which is that if a person was to say La ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, or something similar like that, and there is an understanding from this person that now includes that Muhammad is Allah's servant and his messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and that Muhammad ﷺ has come with the religion which is the correct one, and I have left what I was on from before, that ashhadu an la ilaha illallah is sufficient. And he doesn't need to make a disavowal of the thing that he was on from before. From the evidences of the Shafi'iyya, the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, the Messenger of Allah, you find this in Kitab al-Tawheed as well, that he says, whoever bears witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah, and that there is no partner upon him, and that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger, وَأَنَّ Isa Abdullah, and that Isa is the servant of Allah, وَرَسُولُهُ وَكَلِمَةُ أَلْقَاهَا إِلَى Maryam, that he is the messenger of Allah and he is a word that was sent upon Maryam, وَرُوحٌ مِّن, and a spirit from Allah, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him without a father. وَالْجَنَّةُ حَقٌّ, he believes that Jannah is the truth, وَالنَّارُ حَقٌّ, and that the hellfire is the truth. أَدْخَلَهُ اللَّهُ الْجَنَّةِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will admit him into his Jannah. This is now proof for that group there, the Shafi'iyya, where they have said, listen here, no, you have to believe in Allah being the object of worship with truth, لا معبود بحق إلا الله, and that you have to affirm the Messenger of Allah ﷺ is the servant of Allah and the final messenger. But then you have to also affirm that Isa is the messenger of Allah, not the son of Allah, etc., etc., etc. So this is from the evidences of the Shafi'iyya. However, what seems to be the case is that if a person was to say in this manner, this would be more complete. So now to answer your question here, I know we've gone around so many different angles and discussed so many different things, but here to answer the question now, if a person is able to clarify in detail, then you should do so. And that would, absolve him from any kind of difference of opinion, because now the person has entered into Islam with full yaqeen and certainty and ilm. But if a person fears that, they haven't got much time left and they haven't got the ability to speak to them and they're not well, etc., then getting them to say La ilaha illallah is sufficient on the condition that they also admit that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If they say La ilaha illallah by itself, not affirming that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the servant of Allah and his messenger, then that person has not entered into Islam. That person has not entered into Islam, because both of these testimonies need to be affirmed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He keeps us firm upon the qawl al-thabit fi al-hayat al-dunya wa fi al-akhirah, and that He gives us the best of answering when we enter the grave, and He gives us the best of resurrections when He will gather all of mankind, the first of them and the last of them, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides our loved ones, all of them, believers and the disbelievers from them, to His mercy and His Jannah and His Tawheed. هذا والله أعلم وصلى اللهم على نبينا محمد.